Innovation in the Asia-Pacific region is on the rise, and that has been one of the big talking points here at Sibos 2018.
Joining us now to share his insights on the trends in the region is Alain Raes, Swift's CEO for Asia-Pacific and EMEA. Alain, welcome to Sibos TV.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Alain, tell us what's happening in Asia. What are the new technologies and players out there that are impacting banking and finance?
Well, there are many, right? But perhaps the best example I can read giving you is what's happening in China. I'm sure that you've all heard about the Alipay, the Tencent, WeChat, all these new companies that were somewhere of no existence 3 or 4 years ago. And you see actually how big they are, how large they are, how fast they're expanding, not only in Asia, but also outside of Asia. And somewhere they came with a different concept, which is very much about how can they change the customer's experience, the user's experience. The QR code is a simple notion, a simple concept, but let me tell you one thing. I'm going to Beijing sort of every 2 months. I'm the last guy in the coffee shop where I'm going to still pay with a Visa card, right? Nobody else does that. Actually, they all go with the iPhone or any other phones. They pay with QR code and they pay with those companies.
Wow.
So that has tremendously changed the landscape in that country, and it will keep on like this. And it's not really about the technology is one thing, right? We talk about APIs, we're talking about DLT technologies, and perhaps others will come. It's much more about the way they're approaching this, they're sort of changing the customer's experience and the way they go to market as well.
From your own observations, do you think that new competitors and new technologies are actually having a bigger impact in the Asia-Pacific area? And if so, why?
Well, that's difficult to say. What I see definitely is that there's a lot of innovation in financial services that is happening in this part of the world. It is in India, it is in ASEAN, it is in China. It looks to me, with my experience that I have also in Europe, Middle East and Africa, that it goes faster here. I think the fact also that you have these new entrants coming, they have this sort of the chance to starting from an empty sheet. They don't have any legacy. They can go very fast. That goes along the fact that all these economies are opening up, they're emerging, they're going very fast as well. We've also these tens and tens of millions of people moving to the middle class, every year. China is bringing something like 40 million of them every year. India is 25 million. And all those people they're buying smartphones, they're buying new services, they're buying financial services. And that is perhaps one of the reasons why it goes faster.
But Alain, as we move towards the open banking model, what kinds of collaboration are you seeing in the industry across the Asia-Pacific region?
Well, I really believe that open banking is really about collaboration, right? It's really about, because somewhere it is forcing the bank to sort of opening up the systems, the applications, and sort of having to work with any other firms, any other fintechs, working with them and innovating together, right? This is exactly what is happening in Europe with the PSD2 initiative that talks about that, and that is actually happening as we speak. It will force them to collaborating together. It may lead to actually other business model for the bank, I have to say, because how do you monetize all this new system that you're bringing? How are you going to make money out of that? Also, it will be challenging for the fintechs because, in the financial industry, there's something that I've learned very quickly is that it's all about scale. It's all about economies of scale. If you don't grow, if you don't get to the big numbers, then you will be rapidly out of resource and money to keep investing in your technology, in your innovation, and then you'll be out of business.
And when you look at Australia, we know the real game changer was MPP and real-time payments. It's been a huge success. But when you actually project ahead, what is next for MPP and, in fact, Swift? Because you guys are the architects.
Well, I mean, we've been working with them, let's put it this way, right? I mean, it's been a huge success and something that I'm very proud of, that we've been able to doing this. I think the next really first, I would say in the next few months or so is really about, I would say, consolidating the foundation they have. Actually, the going live went very fast, and the take-up of volumes, although perhaps lower than expected, I still believe actually is very, very fast, right? They're now moving above 300,000 transactions per day. They have about 50 million accounts in Australia that are reachable. When you think that in Australia you have 25 million inhabitants, that tells you how fast it's going. But I think the next phase will be about, as this system, this architecture is very much open, will be about about how to bring more value added onto this, right? They talked about the overlays, new application eventually can come and connect to this. They're also talking about a new consent services that we'd like to work with, and then we'll look forward to eventually building this for them as well. So the fact that this is really open leaves the room for innovation completely, endless, right? And I think that's what they're looking for.
But Alain, we're not just looking at domestic real-time payments. I understand there's also a real-time cross-border pilot underway in Asia. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, that's funny that you're talking about, because some way, this is how innovation leads to innovation, right? We launched NPP, so we worked on NPP for the last 4 years. We went live earlier this year. At the same time, 3 years ago, we launched our idea to make GPI, right? And GPI is all about making cross-border payments faster, more transparent, trackable, and this kind of stuff. Somewhere we're connecting the two dots not together, because there's also one thing that we've realized in the industry here in Asia and elsewhere as well, is that in many countries, they've moved to implementing their own real-time payment schemes. Unfortunately, all those systems are different. So interconnecting those systems become very much complex, right? So somewhere we're trying to position the GPI as a common DNA in between banks, of course. Banks are very much involved, and those payment systems. And yes, indeed, 2 weeks ago, we ran a proof of concept connecting banks in China, in Thailand, in Singapore, and Australia, and making payments to the final recipients and remittance in Australia. And the fastest payments went from China all the way down to a bank in Australia through the NPP platform, the final recipients, all of that in 18 seconds.
Wow.
That is proving that somewhere, even in cross-border payments, we can go nearly real time.
In terms of the big subjects at Sibos, trade finance has been up there. So
totally.
Do you feel that we're actually on the verge of seeing the digitization and indeed decentralization of trade finance? What's happening there?
I think, yes. The problem that with trade finance, this is actually people will believe it's easy. It's not, right? Because you have so many participants in that business, right? From importer, exporter, banks being involved on both sides. Then you have the freight forwarders, you have the customs being involved. It's endless, right? So how can you make all these people working together to make actually an environment, more seamless than it is today? I think we can participate to this. I'm not sure actually that it will be a sort of single solution. I think it will be more like a combination of different solutions working together. I think we can certainly help to doing this. I'm not sure that SWIFT will be the unique solution. The fintechs will be intervening, banks will jump together and trying to work together. But I think we can certainly just eventually even leveraging GPI, right? And make GPI connecting through APIs with those platforms will be already a real plus, enhancing the experience.
And Alain, finally, what do you think financial services will look like in 10 years, and what are the implications of that for SWIFT members?
Well, look at me, right? Frankly, no, but I don't have any crystal ball. I really don't know. I really don't know. I've been in this business for nearly 30 years now. It moves so fast. I've had time to remember, what was really on the top of the innovation 5 years ago. So, frankly, to tell you, in 10 years from now, I think the technology will keep evolving, that's for sure, and it will keep accelerating, right? You'll have more and more people getting access to all those services, right? And I think banks, if they want to survive, will have to really focusing on this customer's experience and make sure that the access to the systems will be a lot easier, faster than before. At the same time, they'll have, due to all the investment that they have to do, they'll have also to define ways in which, or re-innovation in terms of business models. How are they going to be doing all this is difficult to say. Will we still have banks in 10 years from now? Perhaps not. Will we need banking in 10 years from now? Definitely. But who's going to be playing that role? Nobody really knows. Certainly not me.
That's a conversation we'll be having with you in 10 years' time.
Eventually, yes.
Excellent. Alain, Raes, thank you so much for joining us on Sibos TV. Thank you.
Thank you.